Hey guys, this is Denny,
And this is James from TeaDB.org.
and today we're going to be talking about an oolong tea.
Yep, another one. And this one is called the Shui Jin Gui Wuyi Oolong Tea.
So a little bit more about oolong teas. We've been mostly talking about curled oolong teas, but oolong is just a method of processing tea, and so one other way you can process this oolong tea is actually by twisting the leaves as opposed to curling them up into like a little tight knot. So we're going to be trying one of these teas today. This is a more oxidized tea than we've done before, although it's not as roasted as the Dondine that we had last episode.
Yep. Yeah, and so this is from the Wuyi Mountains, which is one of the 4 major regions that grows oolong teas. And it's from probably the most famous region which on mainland China, which is, of course, the Wuyi Mountains. And they're really known for a tea called Da Hong Pao, which stands for Big Red Robe. And we're not actually going to be drinking that tea today. We're going to be drinking another one of their famous teas. And you can see here that the leaves are really, they're twisted, as Denny has described, and the roast is really nice and light, as opposed to that heavier charcoal roast that we have on the Dongding.
So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the gaiwan. James, what are the brewing parameters for this tea?
Yeah, so they're very, very similar to kind of what we've done with the Dongding. And, you know, I really recommend that you figure out what brewing parameters you like best. But these leaves are a little bit fluffier, so if you're not using a scale, it's going to look like it's taking up more space on the actual gaiwan. And like last time, we're going to start off with, you know, a quick little rinse on these guys. And that's just to kind of wake these leaves up. For the other oolongs, they were rolled, so that was more necessary. So you could actually drink this, but we're not going to.
And again, the reason why there's more volume is just simply that these aren't rolled, so they're not nearly as tight. As the rolled oolong absorbs water, it's going to naturally expand itself and really fill up the volume of the actual gaiwan itself. So we'll see the actual leaves take up as much space on our 3rd or 4th brewing inside the gaiwan, but it's a little deceptive to the eye initially.
Yep. And so for the first brew right here, we're going to brew for about 20 seconds.
This looks gorgeous. I mean, even just looking at the rinse right now, it really has a beautiful amber color, little orange in there too. It smells quite nice. Actually, kind of reminds me of the color of a black tea.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, and the smell of this is very, very delicious. It has a very, very sweet sort of scent to it, and we'll smell the leaves in just a second right here.
Yeah. You can also just smell almost any of the utensils of the tea that you're making. So, smelling the actual wet leaves themselves, you're going to get a really bold flavor. But you can also just smell the top of the gaiwan.
Yep. And the gaiwan is especially made for kind of a sniffing device. And, like, you get a lot richer and stronger smell from a gaiwan as opposed to something like Yixing clay teapot, which we have some up above displayed up there.
So what kind of temperature water are you using here, James?
Yeah, so we're using about the same temperature water that we used for the previous 2 oolongs. So very, very close to boiling. I'm getting a lot of the chocolatey, creamy aspects out of this right now.
Yeah. Really changes the flavor profile with the oxidation. And I'm almost getting a black tea taste, like kind of the golden fleece that I've had from Verdant as well. Color is really reminiscent of that too. But interestingly, the smell really brings out that kind of the Donding-esque roasted oolong smells that I'm very familiar with.
Interesting.
Yeah. This is quite nice. So when you're testing and trying tea with your friends, a really great thing to do, because the differences in tea can be very subtle, is to really show a broad spectrum of different tea profiles and different tastes. So you might want to pick a green tea and maybe something like a pu'er tea. Those are going to really contrast. Or maybe something like a really lightly oxidized oolong tea that's curled versus a twisted, heavily oxidized oolong tea.
Yep.
Presentation-wise, they're going to look very different, and they'll have a very different taste, but you'll still be able to feel and smell and taste some of the similarities as well.
Yep. And especially for people that are just getting started. So whenever I do a tea tasting with some of my friends that are a little bit newer to tea, I'm definitely going to kind of alternate between light, heavy, light, heavy.
This is lovely, man.
So for the next brew, we're going to go for about 25 seconds. We're going to just increase the brew very, very slightly. And I'm going to just skim off the top here.
So this is our second steeping here. We're getting much more of that red amber color, kind of that sort of maple orange color.
So I'm getting a lot less chocolatey notes for this, but it's still a very, very rich tea to me.
It's nice. You know, I think that the lighter oxidized oolongs that I taste tend to be less bitter. So, you know, I had some golden fleece this morning, and maybe that's just sort of muscle memory or taste memory. But I loved the bitterness of that in the morning as a coffee replacement for me. I think this would be great in the morning. You know, I don't usually drink tea with cream. I know that the English are famous for doing that, cream or sugar. But I can see something like a little splash of cream in this, maybe it would definitely take the bitterness off. But it could be interesting. I don't know. Go ahead and experiment. See what you like. There's no right or wrong way to do tea. There are some certain ways that might make it taste better than other ways, but it's up to your preference. How would you describe the color of the leaves themselves?
They're very dark, but they also have kind of these spots that are a little bit lighter brown than the actual leaves. And you know, for the dongding, it was rolled and heavily, well, not heavily, but moderately roasted, much significantly more so than this. So you could just smell that roast on here. The roast here is more, a little bit more subtle, lighter, and you can smell kind of more of those natural flavors coming out of the tea, a little bit of floral aspects, and definitely some pretty heavy chocolate and rich flavors.
So, where can someone learn more about this tea, James?
So, this particular tea we actually bought from Verdant Tea as well, and so you can check out, they're a great tea company, as I've stated before, and you can check out more of their teas at verdanttea.com. But this is a very, very famous mountain in China, and so I'd really recommend that people check out, you know, some of the different teas from this mountain. It's like the Dahong Pao is notorious for being extremely expensive, and also one of the most commonly foraged teas in China, which is saying quite a bit, because for a country known for kind of their forgery and whatnot, especially in regards to stuff like tea.
You know, and you can also learn more, of course, just by going to TeaDB.org. You can learn more about oolong teas, all types of different tea, and go ahead and also look at other episodes of our Tea Talks. So, this is Denny.
And this is James.
And thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Ciao.